Have you ever been teaching and you're like really into it, you're all excited, kids are working, all of that stuff, and all of a sudden the bell rings and you're like, whoa, where did the class period go? I've been there too. So, today we are talking about time management in teaching. This is part three of the time management series. Okay, so I am Fleur, the face behind Aloha Monday Teaching, and I help science teachers like you and me be more intentional, prepared, and refreshed for Monday or any day. So we look forward to, coming to work and doing our thing. So today I'm talking about time management in teaching. So in your lessons or in your class period, and that way things are on track. And I have 5 tips for you today, and it's based on this blog post. And any of the things I mentioned that have links will be in the description below. Let's get started. All right, so this is just a review of on planning, my planning process, and this was mentioned in the last video. And once you're all planned out, then you have your lessons, and let's talk about how long those can take. So here are the 5 tips I will be going over today. The first one is to know how much time you actually have to teach or how much time is in your class period. Know how long it takes to present new information. Have a good idea of how long a science lab could take. Give appropriate times for independent work, and students need time to complete any projects. All right, so tip number 1, so be aware of your available time to teach. That's really important for time management and teaching in general so that you're not running out of things to say or do, and you still have, 10, 15 minutes left of class. Or you're not teaching to the bell and you're like, oh no, the bell just rang, let's clean up. That way you avoid those types of situations. So here's an example of a 60-minute class period. And I know our class periods are all different everywhere. Ours is 59 minutes. And on Wednesdays, we have 34 minutes. So it varies. And I know some teachers have 45-minute classes or they have block scheduling with like an hour and a half. So here's just a little example. So you want to have some time in the beginning of class and at the end of class for those things like bell work, so you can take attendance and that, those beginning of class duties. At the end of class, you want to make sure you have time for a closing, exit ticket, and give students time to clean up. So that the end of class could vary depending on what you're doing. So at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end of class for those types of activities, which leaves that middle part. That's the part you have available to teach or the time you have available for students to complete any work. So about 45 to 50 minutes is what you might have in a 60-minute class period. So knowing that will help you when you're teaching, teaching, doing labs, activities, that all of those things. The second tip is about presenting new information. So during your explain part of 5E, your note-taking days, review it first to make sure, to see how long things will take. Some lessons will take 1 class period, some will take 2 class periods. And you also might want to break those up so they're not sitting the entire time. So know that before you start your class period. Here are some tips for explain and note taking. So just know that it takes about 1 to 2 class periods to complete a lesson's worth of notes. The best days, okay, this could be a personal thing, or you might agree with me. The best days for notes are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I learned last school year, that Fridays, especially end of the day Fridays, are not a good day to do notes. I do things like labs or stations or something on Fridays now. So that's a personal thing. If you can schedule your notes for any day but Friday, I think it'd be a lot easier on you and the kids. A tip I have also is to record your notes. If you're able to record you presenting your notes through maybe on Zoom, Screencast-O-Matic, Loom, those are some things you can use to share your screen, and you can show like your face. And that way you can upload those to Google Classroom so your students have the notes if they're absent. Or this is a good way for you not to talk all day long. So you record your notes, and then for each class period, you press play. And your notes are, I mean, your video is talking for you, but then you pause at different parts to explain something more, to give them time to respond and those things. So that's just a tip if you're able to do that. I did that a lot last school year when my prep period was first period, but now my prep period is after lunch. And so I have not done this school year, but it really worked for me last year. Another tip is to alternate your note-taking days. So this is more to break up the day, because I know when we're teaching 5 or 6 classes a day, and if we're teaching the same thing, like for us as teachers, I know we like to change things up sometimes. Some people like it like that, where it's all the same. So you could do note taking. If you're doing notes for your grade level classes, you could do notes on one day, and on that, when they're taking notes, your advanced classes might be doing something different, and then the next day they're doing notes, and that way it breaks it up for you, so you're not talking the entire day doing notes. But that's optional. That's nothing, it's just more to get variety, and so you're not talking all day, because that kind of gets tiring. All right, next tip is about labs. So I highly recommend that you practice the lab before you have the students do it. Number one, you want to make sure that it works and you have the right materials and directions, but also you want to know how long it will take to complete that lab so you can plan your class period appropriately. So some labs are quick. They can take 20 minutes. Others can take the whole class period. Some might even go into the next day. So you want to make sure you know how much time it's going to take, so you can either slow it down if you need to. You can have an extension or something they do after they're done with the lab, or that, okay, this part is homework, like ahead of time. And if you need more about labs, how to manage a lab in middle school, I have a video and it's linked below. The next tip is about independent work. So independent work, just when the students are working, whether they are doing an assignment, they are doing stations or choice boards, working with a partner, those things, you'll need to know how much time you want to give them for that. So one class period is a lot of time to complete one assignment. I like to give them at least 2 things that they have to do if it's just a work day. On our Wednesdays, when we have our shorter class periods, I only assign 1 assignment for that 34 minutes. So just make sure, when you're planning this, that you are giving them enough to do that's realistic so that they can finish it during the class period. And if it's something that's pretty quick, have some, like a backup plan, what they can do after they're done with their work. Finally, the last tip is about projects. Projects, I like them to do them in class. Some projects I'll have them do at home or give them an option to do it at home too, but most of the time we do them in class. And I like to give them at least 3 class periods to really work on their project, because there's a lot of steps in the projects that we give. So 3 class periods is plenty of time. Of course, you can be more flexible, give them an extra day, or that 4th day could be presentations. So make sure you're giving the right amount of time for students to complete their projects. Bonus tip. I know I told you there were 5, but here's a bonus one. So use some tools to help you keep track of time. So honestly, in the past, time management was one of my weaknesses. Like, when you go to a job interview and they ask you, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I don't know if they ask that anymore, but it's been a while. But my weakness was always time management, because I would run out of time. And when I'm teaching, I would go over time, not really run out. I would kind of go over. So here are some things that can work. Use a timer. You can project like an online timer on the screen for you and your students. I just use onlinestopwatch.com. I don't know the exact, I'll put the link below. You can purchase one of those fancy countdown timers that you put on the whiteboard, those big ones. You can even have a student be your timekeeper. You know, you have those students who are like, okay, look at the time. We have 5 minutes. We have 10 minutes. You know, they're always watching the clock. So make them be your timekeeper, and that way they can keep you on track, either with your lesson. Of course, teach them to be polite about it, or just during the activities that you are doing, so you don't lose track of time. All right, so we went over 5 tips for time management during your teaching, during your class period. And you need to know what you're teaching, how long it takes to present new information, how long labs take, how long different activities will take, and projects. And also to have at least 5 minutes at the beginning of class for those beginning routines, and then at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end of class for those end of class routines. All right, so your turn. All right, so here's what I want you to try. If you're struggling with this, like I have in the past, keep track of how long your lessons are taking you. Do you ever notice that some classes finish faster than others? That happens to me still. So what kinds of things can you do to help you manage your time with those faster or slower moving classes? And then just choose, at least one tip to work on at a time. And check out these other videos. I have the time management, since this was the third one in a 3-part time management series. The others are linked below. And I also have some links to some lesson planning videos. Thank you.